Good morning, guys. Whoa. Hang on. Hello. Still. Hello. All right, guys. So the is it better? It's better, right? So, all right. Good morning, guys. We try this again without the freaking echo, right? So, welcome to this Monday, June 22nd. Hope you had a good 3-day holiday. And uh, right now, the market is kind of just in a holding pattern, it looks like. Not much happened in that little baby day. It was a little bit of a drawdown actually in the overnight going into today Sunday's trading, but they recovered and they just kind of held the line. So that's kind of where we ended up sitting. Now we are holding. I collapsed the profile for the ES here a little bit, so the back and forth. And you can see how the whole thing is shaping up. A pretty nice ledge going on right now at the 75.15s. And below that one, this edge is getting a little bit less important, I think, but I'm going to leave it there for a second. This area down here, I think, is getting more important. So this guy right there. Um, so the 73.50s is, I think, is a pretty good area for a a it's a directional change on the capital flow, I would say. Now, if you haven't noted, just a point of order, you see if you're trading with AMP futures, you'll have your fills still showing up from Thursday's session. That is a glitch, I guess, they had between CQG and AMP in terms of resetting that. I asked you to send them a note about it last night, and yeah, there's some issue going on there, but they're going to be cleared out after they close today, so that's why you're seeing them. All positions should be correct, though. News this morning or news this week. Not much driving the news today. Pretty much no action today in terms of news. Tomorrow we get PMI composite and Richmond Fed manufacturing. Wednesday, new home sales. Thursday, durable goods, GDP, jobless claims. Personal income and outlays on Thursday. PCE index on Thursday. So I think Thursday is the big news day. Friday, not much going on at all. So consumer sentiment pretty much. So Thursday, I think, is the big news day for this week. Otherwise, we're going to have 3 days of pretty anemic news and probably just sit here and twist in the wind trying to figure out the Iranian situation. I think that's where the market, oil prices and Iranian situation kind of driving it in the short term. See if this deal holds together. So far, it seems like it's holding together, but it's, as usual, the Iranians are out there saying something different, doing something different. Uh, Acting like they want something, or it doesn't defies common sense, I guess. But it's that's what's going on right now, and I would just watch oil prices. Oil is going to give you that first indication what's going on. If there's something happening, oil will spike. If it's not, oil will drop down, and it's just reacting to potential what's happening in that trade. I'm thinking that there's more to this deal than meets the eye. So even if it's a lot of consternation about it, I think it's going to be these 60 days probably going to play out pretty well. And if for some reason it doesn't, it won't. We're going to have to see uh, what happens, how Trump reacts to it. It's going to be it was pretty clear this weekend talking about potential military action if they blow it up. So if they mess it up. So we'll see. It's that's I think it's the short term is what's going to drive the market. We don't have much news to lean against, and then once we get into July, we're going to get the next earnings season and employment situation and stuff like that to lean against as well. So I would just start off right now the way it looks range bound. Look to buy weakness, sell strength. Watch this first level, the 75.15s. If that comes out, I would be more inclined to lean towards the short side and see if I want to run into the downside. The levels down here at the 73.50 is going to be key for changing the direction. That's going to be that comes out. I think we have a capital flow directional change happening. And that wouldn't be good. That would be a bad sign. We can trade it still, but in terms of your 401ks, it would probably suck. So there. Now looking at the so range bound trading to get started, not much happening there. So looking to buy against the 75.50s, 75.35s, 20s, down to the 10 to 15s here for rotations up. Last one, probably 74.95. That would be the lower end of this range. That would be as take just in the bottom end of this range, taking it out. This one is not that precise, so it's the 74.95 is the last one to look to buy against. That would be one level outside the obvious, and that would just imply that things is not going too well. So looking to buy against that 75.50s, the 35s, the 20s, the 10 to 15s, and the 74.95s for rotations up. And then looking for short setups against that 75.80s, 7600s, 7610, 7620s for rotations down, maybe even up to 7630s, but that gets us right up here to the highs. So that ledge here, that 4-letter ledge goes to 2 at 7630s, pretty good ledge to get short against if they get that far up. And I would not be shy about getting short against these levels. I mean, if they're going to be a breakout to the upside, I would think we're going to have a piece of news of some sort. That's usually what's going to be required. I think we're in stage 3 right now in the profile, in building value. So buy weakness, sell strength on strength against the 75.80s, 7600, 7610, 20s, up to the 30s here for rotations down again. Fairly straightforward. So range bound trading, we are in the summer months. Not much happening in terms of volatility, but it could get volatile. We're going to have 250,000 on the MES, 700,000 on the micro. Micro Nasdaq is pretty crazy, right? 700,000 traded already on the micro Nasdaq. That is becoming a real monster market, you know. And on the Nasdaq, though, I haven't quite folded that together just yet. But I might. If I do this, fold this guy together like this, and fold that guy together like that, it doesn't come out that great. I mean, you don't get a whole lot to lean against on this one. So it's but you can see here how it starts tapering off. Splitting out this guy doesn't do much. Splitting that longest line of characters gives you a little bit of sense what happened lately, right? In terms of heading higher, but I'll leave it that for now. I may resplit this one again later on, but as you can tell, it's Nasdaq a lot more volatile, a lot more slop and chop, and you don't really have a good reaction to the downside until you start heading down below that 28.5. That's when you have, okay, this is not working out. So there's a lot of volatility on the upper end of this range. Volume-wise, we have a couple of low volume areas to mark these guys up. This one here is getting less important, looks like, and I may have to rethink some of those on the capital flow. But I'm looking at, you see low volume air. Oops, that was a bit too much. You see low volume areas on the downside here, and you see low volume on the little high volume nodes. But it's not that obvious, you know, in terms of how obvious they point out here. But I mean, pretty nice volume edge down here at the 29,750s. I think that's the one to probably lean against in the short term for a potential directional change. But Nasdaq seems to be massively volatile, and I think the big IPOs, it's not going to make that easier. You have SpaceX again, it down $7 again today, so that's also pretty volatile back and forth. They popped pretty good, now they're back down pretty good, so we'll see. You can count on those to pop and most likely come back down to the IPO price, maybe lower, maybe quite a bit lower, before they settle somewhere. So craziness, hype. That's what's driving short-term stuff as well. Starting off on the Nasdaq, we are pretty much up here towards the high. So I would be inclined to start with a slight long bias on the Nasdaq, given where they are. Look to buy weakness. I would say I would favor the long side. We are pretty much in stage 3, but we are trading towards this upper range. So I would start off with primarily range bound. I would favor the long side, looking to buy weakness early on against that the 30,700s, the 650s, the 580s, 530s, maybe down to the 490s, but If they take out more than 3 or 4 of these support areas, I would be more inclined to start thinking, okay, they're retracing from the highs. I would not be surprised if you get an attempt to take it higher, up here to the 820s, 890s, and the 975s, potentially short opportunities. But as I said, it's we're heading up toward an upper area of the Nasdaq, and I doubt they're going to blow through this to the upside. It could happen, given the Iranian situation. If people believe there's enough belief in it, then it may head higher. But you know, we'll see how strong the market is there. I would initially look for short setups against the 820s, 15 to 20s, the 900s, and the 970s here for rotations down again. So I would favor it alongside. I would not be shy on the short side either to get short against this, but it's and that's just because I'm primarily range bound. But I favor it alongside at this point, given what happened here in the overnight and the last few days. So looking to buy weakness at least to get started, and let's see what happens with it. That's how we get started, right? So that's the Nasdaq. And if you can hear my dog barking, that's because he woke up, coming down, and he wants some attention. Ignore him. So, all right, let's go over to the bond market. All right, the bond market is pretty much holding in the range, and not. Let me see here. There, holding in a range, pretty much staying in this trading range. You can see the capital flow on this guy on the bigger picture. Everything has kind of shifted a little bit to the downside. So the mode is starting to shift down to the 112, 15, 16s here. And we'll see when that shift happens. But you can see how all the volume has been building below this 116s here for a while. So I would not be surprised if they hold in, maybe even start drifting lower. The higher yields is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is something we haven't seen as a consistent thing for a long time. People are so used to these zero rates. It's what's going on there. Yeah, dogs, I tell you. And he has no respect for me talking on the mic or anything like that. He just comes down and stands and barks at me. Yeah, we want immediate attention. Yeah, there it goes. Anyway, so I would start off flat out range bound on the bonds again. That's kind of what he does. So that's kind of what's going on with that thing. When we get a move, we'll take it, but it's been pretty darn dead for a while here. A little bit of movement here and there. I'm watching for my setups. I haven't really found any good ones. So so looking to buy weakness against the 12. Let me see, get this guy back like this. So looking to buy against the 112, 24, 25s, the 20s, down to the 10s. They're going to sell strength 113s, 113, 10, 8 to 10s, and 113, 15, 16s rotations back down again. All right, so that's kind of where we are. Fairly straightforward on the bonds. If I get some good setups, I'll try to take a trade there, but I say it's been pretty freaking anemic the last few weeks, so I haven't done much with it. But it is a good market to keep there. It gives you a good sense of what's happening in the bond market. If that starts moving and you start seeing volatility in the bond market, you should be paying attention because that's not a good sign at all. Finally, cryptos moving. They've actually been moving a little bit higher in the overnight, up to 64.6 on the Bitcoin, 1760 on the Ethereum. That's not a great number, but it's slowly moving higher. Gold and silver moved higher and just kind of stalled. So gold is back to 42.20. Silver still holding at 66. Been moving pretty violently, silver back and forth to trading in the 70s not too long ago. So pretty volatile market there. And as you can see, oil heading lower. They're down in the 74s right now. So definitely a good sign for oil heading lower like this. So as long as oil heading lower like this, I think that agreement is holding, even if you hear a bunch of weird comments and statements and stuff going on. But it's definitely a good sign that as long as oil keeps going lower, that's your barometer for success in that deal. And I think Trump was pretty blunt about it. He said something original. If you mess it up, it'll bomb the crap out of you. So that he wasn't mincing words on it. So they may have gotten the message. Anyway, so back to the ES and Nasdaq, and we know how to get started. So the ES flat out range bound, the Nasdaq starting with a slight bias to the upside or favoring the long side at least to get started. And let's see how it develops. All right, so we'll wrap it there, guys. So good trading. I'll see you back at 11:30 for the next update. All right, guys, later.